She says good. And we're live. How's everyone doing tonight? Hopefully fantastic. Welcome to you, the viewer. Welcome to our fantastic panel here on the side. It's the after dram, and that means it's time to unwind. So put your feet up, grab a cocktail or two. Well, my wife's cocktail, I might take that later, or my drink, and relax. That's what this is all about. It's relaxation. It's fun. As a quick recap of our evening, Dave, Blair, Davin, and I have been treated to a tour of Peter's Distillery, the Newfoundland Distillery in Clarke's Beach, Newfoundland. We're all now sitting together enjoying a much-anticipated beverage because distillery tours are hard work. So what we're going to do again is a quick round of introductions. And again, tell us what's in your glass. We'll go Davin, Blair, and Dave, and then we'll finish off with Peter and then back to me if we can. So, Davin, you're up.
Davin de Kergommeaux, co-author of this book, The Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries, that we're using to travel across the country, stopping tonight in Newfoundland, as I'm drinking the Newfoundland Distillery Company's Seaweed Gin and Tonic.
Ooh. Excellent.
Blair Phillips, co-author of The Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries. I am enjoying a Dolph-sized old-fashioned.
Excellent.
I've dropped in a couple drops of this blueberry bitters just to see what happens, and so far it's working for me.
Good to know. Good to know. Peter, you're up.
I'm now on a Negroni. I can hold it up more light. With made with seaweed gin.
And that was with Coke as well. And what else?
No, I didn't put Coke in this one.
Sorry.
I had some Dillon's vermouth from Ontario and then a bit of Campari. Equal mixture of everything.
Which one was the drink with rum and the Coke?
Oh, that's the Kuba Libra.
Ah, okay. Perfect.
Which is basically a fancy rum and Coke. You squeeze lime in it, and it makes you feel like you're in the Caribbean, and it's fresh. And
isn't that what Che Guevara drank?
Yeah, I think it is.
with your gin. Oh no, with your rum.
With our rum. Yeah, I mean, we sent it back in time to him, and we were his favorite rum.
Up, Dave.
Hey guys, it's Yukon Dave coming from his basement. Longtime reader of this, proud owner, and I'm drinking the Seaweed Gin. I only got the small bottle.
Oh dear, sorry about that.
No, that's a good-looking bottle. That's not your fault; it's mine because that's all I wanted to give him.
Sorry,
we still have this. We still have this. I can give David.
Hey, good going, Peter.
Good-looking book.
What's your
it's a
favorite
good-looking
grade?
bottle, Dave. And I've got a Negroni, and I guess it's a Dolph-sized pour for Dolph. I don't know. I think I'm getting a bad rap, but I probably deserve it. But
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think yours was quite a good pour. I think you do sensible pouring.
I think so. Why get up twice, really, if you're just going to have more? The problem is I make one for my wife as well, and she'll give me one later, so it looks like it's full, and I'll start drinking hers as well. So, yeah, it's a little bit much. I know. It's my fault. Welcome, everybody, to the After Dram, and I'm glad everyone's here. We've been having fun. It's been a great night. This, and I failed to mention this the first time, this is the last distillery that we are visiting on our trip. After this, next week we're doing a recap of our favorite moments of all the different distilleries with everyone else from the Whisky Book Club. But you are our very last distillery, so that's something special, I think, in my mind. And Davin and Blair wanted you to be the very last, so here it is. This is us. Peter, sorry. Nothing? Okay, sorry. I thought I heard somebody. Peter, I'm going to throw up a quote from you, if I may. And it's a great quote, and I like it a lot. It's about having a glass of something. It's about, there we go. That's yours. So it's about having a glass of something at the right time. It doesn't matter if it's gin and tonic or a pint of beer. There is a shared experience. That's what I find fascinating. When you have the right drink at the right time, it's absolutely perfect. So I really like that quote. Good job. And this will be a question for Peter first, but I would like to hear from everyone else that's had this experience. So apart from this moment, which is fantastic, can you give me an example of this, Peter?
There's so many examples of it. I mean, last night, for instance, I had a perfect glass of red wine just before or with dinner, and it was the first time I had it. Now, rather embarrassing, I of course can't remember what it's called. I will tomorrow. And I was there with Michelle, my wife, and it was just that it was that perfect moment. And it was just the right wine, just the right time for what we were eating, and it was exquisite. And I think that happens to me quite a lot, and I sort of constantly am aiming for that, is having the perfect gin and tonic, which happens quite a lot to me.
With your
but you've got it, so you get to that treat stage of a day, and suddenly everything falls into place.
Yeah.
And or you've got a perfect glass of whiskey, and it's there's I'm always, in a sense, aiming for what I call the sublime of having the perfect company with the perfect drinks, with the perfect food for the perfect night. And I think tonight we're doing very well. So actually, I'd say this is the perfect drink right now, right here, because I'm really enjoying it. It's fun chatting. It's wonderful.
I agree, Peter. And I want to know from the rest of us, do we have a moment we would like to share where the perfect group of people, perfect drink, everything was copacetic? Anyone else? Davin, Blair, Dave?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Fire one off. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Mine happened on Friday. I was been driving around all day. Things are getting canceled, getting moved around, and then Dolph says, "I'll be home at 4. You can pick up your samples." I go over there. I'm sitting there about 20 to 4 waiting for him, and he comes home. We go in the backyard. He starts throwing gas on this wood and starts a big fire. And all kinds of other people started showing up, and the day just got so much better. I get a text, and the guy says, "Are you going to be home soon?" I said, "No, I'm having drinks at Dolph's house." And they said, "Okay, we'll see you. We'll see you about an hour." And those days happen all the time for me.
Nice.
It's part of the business now. So yeah.
It's good to grab hold of them though and just run with it, Dave. I think so.
Well, I just keep looking for the next one. Like, okay, where am I gonna? Yeah.
Tomorrow night. Blair.
Tonight.
How about you?
No, I was going to say we my wife and I bought this triple cream cheese, which if I pan down right now and you see my gut, you'll be like, okay, obviously ate it all. But what happened was we bought this cheap bottle of wine to go along with this cheese, and it turned into this Hansel and Gretel moment when the witch was chucked in the oven and the kids were celebrating. Yeah, we get to eat the house, and that was our day.
That's a perfect combination. Davin, do you have something for us? I know there's lots to pick from, but
my very favorite whiskey, my very favorite drink is a dram that I personally don't consume myself because it's not my style. It's Black Velvet Toasted Caramel. My wife Janet loves it, and because of that whiskey, we are able to sit together by the fire and dram, and I'll drink whatever I'm drinking, and she'll drink her Black Velvet Toasted Caramel, and we'll talk. So it's just a wonderful whiskey because it always gives me a great time.
Perfect. Now, that's great. And with me, there's so many moments, and it could be Oktoberfest in Munich. It could have been when we were in Dublin, and just the people around you. But I, like Dave, I find those moments a lot, and I tend to appreciate them quite a bit. But when I thought about when you were talking, and as soon as Blair said wine, I thought of my wife and I. I taught in Europe for 3 years. In the south of France, we had a vacation. And so we had a vacation south of France, and we had this 4-liter jug of vin fraîche. So we would go to the vineyard. They would fill it up right there. And this is at 10 o'clock in the morning. And we brought this 4-liter jug with us back to our small little town that we were camping in. We went to the beach, and my wife and I are drinking this vin fraîche as the kids are on the beach and playing in the sand. It's just those moments. And I think it was €2 or €2.50 for this 4-liter jug of vin fraîche. It was a rosé. It was cold. It was probably 38 degrees. And it was just a fantastic moment. And it doesn't need to have alcohol to it, but we're talking about alcohol, so we're going to link it to that right now.
Yeah.
I might be an alcoholic, maybe, but it doesn't need to have the alcohol for it. But in that case, as soon as Blair said the wine, that's the memory that came back to me. So thank you very much, Blair. That was fantastic. Thank you all for those memories and for sharing that. I appreciate it. And Peter, I'd like to talk about the gin for a second, if I may. Your gin is barley based, and I'm wondering why you decided to do it that way. Is it because it's way more expensive? If you're going barley, I know the cost is going up. Is it because you wanted to be a whiskey maker in the end and you're practicing?
Yes, there's that, and the only grain that we could reasonably grow safely in the province is barley.
Okay.
So that's the grain we can get. So that's the grain we have to work with. And it's great because it makes it slightly different and separate from all the other gins. So just another added feature and uniqueness to our gin.
Okay.
And so it's not necessarily a grand plan, but it's just the practical application of what we've got and using it.
And I think that makes sense. If your ultimate aim, like you said originally, was to make whiskey, it feels right to practice making whiskey along the way.
Yeah, and it means I think we're pretty good at making the right mashes so that we can run them through the still in the best way and become more efficient. And it's like, practice is perfect. And I'm not saying we're perfect in any way, we're not, but it's, we enjoy the processes that we have and tweaking them in our own ways for sort of, and just to see what happens, because we don't really know.
Well, I'm not the one to tell you it's not perfect, because I think it's pretty darn good. So I'm pretty impressed, to tell you the truth. I'm enjoying myself. Let's switch gears a little bit. And Davin and Blair, I don't know if this was in the book or one of your articles, because I've been going back and forth a bit too much. You talk about their intent to make whiskey with beer, B-E-R-E.
Yeah, bear.
Bear. Is it a type of grain? And actually, let's start with that. Is it a type of grain? Is it used in other countries? And then, Peter, I'm going to ask you if that's still what you want to do. So, Davin, Blair?
Well, when we first talked to Peter about the whole entire bear barley thing, it's a grain that grows well in northern hemispheres.
Okay.
If you think about it as it's planted, I think, if Davin can correct me if I'm wrong, but and Peter as well, it's planted in May, and then it's growing. It grows quite quickly through the summertime. And this is a grain that's thousands of years old. It's been used in Scotland. Bruichladdich and the Iron Distillery are two distilleries recently that have released whiskeys using it. And there's also a roll back to this connection with Newfoundland's Norse culture. Beer, I think, in Norse is for crop, and in Anglo-Saxon it means barley. So there's that whole entire connection right there. And when I was talking to Peter about making whiskey, when we wrote up the article in the book, there was a romantic aspect of taking this Norse barley from when the Norse came to Newfoundland and making a whiskey from it. But at the same time, it's extremely expensive to grow. I don't think there's any farms that really grow it in Canada. So there's that connection right there that if they can't get it, they can't get it. But it was kind of like a romantic notion that they could grow this barley and make whiskey from it. and I don't know if that has come together since.
Davin, anything to add to that?
It's barley. It's an early form of barley, just like spelt is actually wheat. You know, we call it spelt, but spelt is an early form of wheat that hasn't been. So yeah, it's not very productive, and it's not worth the farmer's while to grow except for something special. But it's Brook Laddie was using it, was growing, and they were very excited about it 20 years ago, or whenever they first reopened. So,
but it's a 6-row barley versus a 2-row, right? Is that what I read?
Remember. I can't remember. I thought it was a 2-row, but I can't remember.
Guys, I'll interrupt you for one quick set. Peter, I hear the alarm going off in the background. If you have to go deal with something, go right ahead.
No, it stopped. It was it's the boiler doing, or one of the things in the background doing its stuff, and it's just quite loud.
I was looking for the red light going off and telling you something was going to blow up under that 15 pounds or pressure. Okay.
No, it's like there's a burglar. Somebody's
Dave, I interrupted you. You were saying, was it 6 grain or 2 grain? Or sorry, 6 row or 2 row?
Yeah, because I looked it up today because I'd never seen that term before, so I didn't know what it meant, and it said it was a 6-row.
So it could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's used in Scotland a lot, it said, yeah.
Is people don't use it? Is it because of the sugar content's not as high as other barley grains? I'm just wondering.
I think it's expensive, but Peter can clarify.
Yeah. It is expensive, and it's hard to buy. It's hard to get. You've got to plant it, and it's not as productive as other strains of barley. So I've got a lot of weird noises happening in the background. But it's just the boiler and the steam doing whatever they're doing because it's all slightly on.
Okay.
It's authentic.
It is. It's a working distillery.
It's not just for photos. But
it's not productive, Dolph. You don't get very many. You don't get a very large crop. You have to plant a lot of acres to get a small crop.
Yeah, it's really inefficient, but it's a romantic idea in that, they did find traces of bare barley up in the Northern Peninsula when the Vikings came and Leif Erikson came in sort of 960. And so we do like the idea of having some bare barley, and whether we can efficiently make enough to make a special whiskey using the bare barley that's grown here. We don't know. We're still looking at it. We haven't got any yet. I think next year we will make sure we get some planted.
Peter, what's your relationship like with the local farmers? Is there someone you could ask to grow a certain amount for you?
Well, the range of farmers are really excited. The range who are really sort of excited to be able to help us and work with us, which is wonderful. And the Provincial Department of Agriculture have been great helping with that as well. Moving forward, we've got to see, how well it can all work without government help, because it actually has to work in its own way, and they have to be as efficient as farmers sort of in the mainland, or not even the mainland, but in Atlantic Canada.
Yeah,
and it's not, the yields aren't quite as great. It is a bit more expensive, and it is a bit more hard work for everybody, and we're all fine with that. But it's just there's always a balance,
right? And we've heard of other distilleries buying the land around the distillery and starting into farming. You think you want to become a farmer there, Peter, possibly?
No.
Also, where we are, I think it'd be really tricky. You need to be on the west coast of Newfoundland to get enough of a season. Here, it would be tough. And we want to focus on just making the best spirits that we can make, and have the farmers who know how to grow things.
Let the people who know what they're doing do what they do.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Peter, let's get back to you. Now, this is a quote from Davin and Blair again. and I'll throw it up here. It's only a part of the quote, so I'll read the whole thing. It's fairly long. Since Cloudberry season coincides precisely with the height of mosquito season, it's only the hardiest pickers that can do it. Wilkins claims, mentioning his daughters who braved the bites, returning with baskets of berries and more red bumps than a case of measles. So my question is this: you have any more stories that you put your family's welfare up for booze? And because families are for that, really.
It's a good line. Put your family's welfare up
for. Any others?
Not in quite the same way. And I should clarify, those cloudberries were not picked for booze. They were just picked for their, they were off on a cloudberry picking mission and to eat and, bake with. Beyond that, I don't really sacrifice them too much for the booze. I mean, there is some juniper picking that can be done quite close to the edge of cliffs.
Yeah.
But Michelle is quite clear that they shouldn't pick too close to the cliffs.
That's good.
But generally, we get, there's a lot of locals who really love picking, and they've picked all their lives and are really good and efficient at it. My family are not that efficient. The daughters are much more interested in the results of the distillery rather than of all the picking.
Well, and that's a good
so
thing.
I got a question.
Oh, go ahead. Well, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Okay, on the side, Nick wants to know, and so do I, what is a cloudberry?
It's a bake apple.
It's a what?
In Newfoundland, we call them bake apples. In the rest of the country, they call them cloudberries. But a bake apple is, allegedly, it's because there was an exchange between the French settlers and English settlers. And somebody who couldn't speak French very well said, Bake apple, I was trying to ask what it's called, appel, and they said bake apple. And so the French called it bake apple after that.
Oh.
How it's all started. But it really is a sort of what I'd call a yellow bog raspberry.
Okay. And Dave, here's your next question.
Oh, do I read this or do you?
Go ahead, buddy.
What flavor do they specifically provide to your spirits?
Well, to our Cloudberry gin, they give it all the sort of citrus notes.
Oh, okay.
The seaweed gin doesn't have. And it's got, I think that our Cloudberry gin, I mean, it's quite odd because we did it as an experiment between the two. So we had the same amounts of juniper and we perfected the seaweed gin first, and we're trying to make a more traditional gin. And so we thought we got the juniper levels about right, but the seaweed condenses the flavors of the juniper more than the cloudberries do. And so you get more juniper notes in the cloudberry gin and more citrus notes. And it's sort of, it's just slightly more citrusy, really. But without the sweetness of a raspberry.
Can I ask another question? Your juniper, do you use all local juniper, or do you bring anything in?
No, it's all local.
Okay.
It's all handpicked by locals. And I mean, a few years ago, we had a feature on the CBC saying we'd pay, I think it was $7 a pound or a kilo. I can't quite, but it was $7 a pound or a kilo, and which is quite a fair rate. And we had a lot of juniper coming, which was absolutely fantastic. And so we've now got a range of really good pickers that can bring us a whole load of juniper in one go, because we did get slightly inundated with people coming with half a pound of juniper and wanting $3.50, and it was like, and then you've got to weigh them or do it all, and we spend more time acquiring juniper.
1 pound minimum.
Yeah. We've upped it a bit now.
Why I asked that question is the Yukon juniper is really powerful. We can't use 100% Yukon juniper in our gin. We have to bring in some commercial stuff.
Really? How about using just a bit less juniper?
I'm not the All right.
The Yukon juniper is quite sweet as well.
Okay.
The berries are really small, but they're really powerful. Our distiller always tells me, he says, if we use 100%, because you want to have some juniper flavor.
Yeah.
So you got to put some in there, and that's why we have to bring some in. So I'm not the technical guy to be asking that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not the technical guy either, so
Yeah.
I do understand that, and they've got their reasons for it. And,
Yeah.
It's a great question. It's about you half as much juniper. So as a math teacher, that makes all the sense in the world, Peter. Thank you very much. It's good. And from maybe the cooking point or the distilling point, it doesn't. But from the math point, it's perfect. It's like,
I will know the answer the next time I get that one shot at me. So
okay, good.
I won't get caught again.
Sorry, I didn't need to catch you on that.
Peter, I'm wondering, you and William, I'm wondering if your children, you're thinking about grooming the kids to work in the distillery, keep it going over the years. Is that a thought that goes on in your mind?
Possibly, I would say mine. I've got 4 daughters who are now all at university, so they are going to become brand ambassadors.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they're now all in the UK, and we're not available in the UK yet, so there's not much point.
Okay.
But they do help a lot, with the social media and a lot of things like that. Bill's are a bit younger, and yeah, absolutely.
My wife said that we were not sending my daughters away for university because they would meet someone and move away. They would. Boys usually come home, but the girls will stay with their loves someone else. So she said, "No, you're staying in Alberta, University of Alberta. That's where you stay."
Yeah.
So,
and have your daughters said yes?
They did, and they have stayed because they met guys here. So it's worked out, and she's a smart cookie, I think.
Yeah, fantastic.
So hopefully your daughters come home, Peter, and they can continue the business. Does William have a family as well, or is it all him?
He's got 3 sons and 1 daughter.
Wow. Big families in Newfoundland.
Yeah, well, compared to the previous generation, we're not doing anything at all. They had sort of 8, 10, 12 or more.
Okay. Well, I agree with Davin. Long winters, it's what happens. I agree. It's good.
Yeah.
I've got 3. I guess your winters are just a little bit longer than us in Edmonton. Okay.
And Dave, you've got bigger winters up there. And how many do you have?
I only got 2.
Oh, okay.
I'm a slow learner. Slow learner, as you can tell.
Okay. Sorry, this is another question. Peter, Blair, and Davin, you could probably help out with this. I'm wondering how you make your gin. So when do you put the botanicals? When do you infuse it with the spirit? Is it inside, or is it the vapors? So are you infusing it with the liquid or infusing with the vapor? And I'm sorry because I'm really new to this gin thing, so I'm wondering where it comes.
That's right. I mean, Blair or Davin, would you like to have a chat about gin making first, or shall I say what we do?
Say what you do.
Yeah, I think you say what you do.
We use 2 techniques.
Yeah,
So you've got a gin basket, and there's a little bit of silver just sort of there, and that's a gin basket.
Here, let's make you big, and we'll do that again.
Can you see it's there? And I could lift the computer up and go over there if you'd like me to.
No, that's okay. It's good.
That's the gin basket, and that's where we put the botanicals in. And so we do that. But if you do a full run, we don't get the full flavor that we want. And also, you take all the natural oils out when you do a full run, because it does all turn into vapor, and so the oil, vanishes. So we also macerate some of the juniper and the other botanicals like the seaweed or the baked apples on the side. And then we marry them together at the end. So we sort of do both techniques. I mean, it might be slightly cheating, but we think it makes a better gin. We tried. We checked everything.
Yeah, we do three different
I
ways.
would have guessed that the charred wood was macerated.
Now, when you say macerated, could you tell us what macerated means? Now, I've seen pictures online, so if you go into your Facebook or your Instagram page, people can see pictures of it. But could you explain what macerated means, please?
Yeah, and I'll just go. Davin asked, the gins don't have any of the charred wood in. It's only the rum.
Oh, the rum, right, yeah.
And aquavit that have that. But the gins don't. But macerating just means soaking in booze, in strong booze, like normally about 79%. And you just leave them in there for, I think we try and leave it for about 4 months.
And then when you take it out, it's strained and then filtered somehow as well, right?
Yeah. And that's it. And that's all you do with it is you just let it sit there. I mean, it's really, there is an art to it, and Bill understands that. I don't know the finer points, but it's, for about 4 months, generally things will macerate. We put it through the still, we check, we filter everything, and then Bill marries it together, and we, again, have to do more awful tastings. Normally at 9:30 on Monday morning.
Holy crow.
Yeah, sometimes we do 10 o'clock, and then we ship it off because we're very lucky. All our bottling is done by the NLC. So suddenly you've got the, we don't have to do all that sort of very particular quality control. We ship it off to the NLC. We get it all just about right. It's about 44% with our local water, which we think is really good. They have reverse osmosis water out there, and then they finish it off.
I've never heard of it. I've never heard of anything like that. The liquor board actually doing the bottling for you.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable. Okay.
And the other great thing is, it means it's all in their, it's in their big warehouse. So when they would like more, they know exactly how much more they can have.
So not many bottles fall off the truck then, do they?
No, they don't.
Excellent. Wow, Dave, I'm going to ask you in a second to just ask a question from the side, but I want to ask Blair first if he's all right, because you're in darkness. Did the electricity go out, Blair?
Yeah, there's Perage right now, so I don't know.
Oh, really?
So
well, obvious.
Okay.
I think monohydro couldn't contain the flavors of this gin and this rum, so they need to figure this out before they can get into the LCBO. But it's dark here right now.
Okay.
The amount of money you spend on craft spirits, Blair, it doesn't surprise me you couldn't pay your hydro bill.
That's how it happens.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Hydro or spirits. We've always meant more spirits, not the hydro.
It's a good look, Blair. It's like the kind of a Godfather-like mystique to you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
No, I like it. It's good. Maybe we should do this more often.
It's a Halloween look, yeah.
Could you help me with this, sir?
That white hair sure sticks out on your beard now.
At least he has hair. Thanks for reminding me, Dave.
I keep mine short on purpose.
Well, mine's standing out too, so we're good.
Yeah.
Dave, do we have any questions on the side yet?
Yeah, I got a great one from the Whiskey Ass again. He wants to know if you put anything weird in any of your batches. And you got to reference that by, who was it? The guys, somebody in the Maritimes put a lobster in.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So he's looking, do you use something special from the rock?
Well, all our botanicals and flavors are from the rock. We don't do anything else because once we put it on the label, that's all that's in there. So if we add anything else at any stage, we've then got to reprint all the labels.
Well, you could have, yeah.
And so, recently we've just got a new batch of rhubarb vodka out, and alcohol ate the pink color of the rhubarb over time, which we found really annoying.
Yeah.
So we actually went to labs and took it a bit more seriously and found out that partridge berry is, I think it's that lingonberry in the rest of Canada, has a much stronger color dye. And so we've put that in as well, but we had to reprint all the labels.
So Peter, when you did the rhubarb one, did it turn it kind of a light brown color, like a brownish color? Yeah, it did that to us too.
Yeah. Oh, after a year or so, and they look really. When we first, yours really pretty pink when you first released it, and then after a year, it just turns to. Yeah, I mean, I was nearly a seaweed gin color, but it's a off color, and now it's just come out. I haven't got one with me, but it's a very pretty pink. So we do change things up, but not on each run, because we feel that we have to stick to the ingredients we put on the bottle, and we don't make really small batches and hand bottle them and put them out, because we do it all at Rock Spirits, which is the NRC, because it's just easier that way. We don't have to worry about any of those extra details. We can again focus on just making the spirits we'd like to make.
All right.
Cool.
And do you have another question, Dave, before I go on to Peter? I've got another one for him, but do you have another question? Or are you good?
Looking pretty good here. I got lots of questions, but it's about my personal life, so it probably doesn't matter here.
Okay. We're good. Here, let's do this. So seaweed, let's talk about your seaweed gin, if we could, please. And Davin and Blair say, and if I could find it online, Wilkins claims, I'll just read that live. Early on, we decided to use what we could get locally and keep it simple. The hard part was working out the balance. So how long do you leave the seaweed in? What ratio of botanicals? Half as much as Dave, apparently. And there was a lot of to get it to the right level, explains Wilkins. The gin was worth the effort. A sweetness balances the brininess, fine-tuned by an earthiness that underlines the juniper. I'm wondering how you did that. Like, how long did it take you, and how many different samples are you going back and forth and mixing? And are you a part of that, Peter, or is that just William or Bill trying to kind of getting geeky on his own?
Well, that's our I think that's my key role with Bill.
Okay.
It is that we came up with the idea of doing seaweed gin. I mean, to be honest, there are two versions of the story. You can all choose which one's true.
Okay.
The first one is we're standing on Clarke's Beach, looking around and thinking, wondering what else we could possibly use in the gin. And then looked at our feet and saw all sorts of seaweed everywhere and went, we've got to use seaweed. The other one is that I was in South Wales having a glass of seaweed gin and thought, oh my God, that's really good gin. I think we could possibly make our own. So, yeah. So, I mean, there are two, they're both slightly true. In terms of how we proceeded, it was sort of getting the local source of dulse. And once we got that, we then, we like the idea of leaving it in the bottle. But the longer you leave it in the bottle, the saltier the gin becomes. And then it was just a case of experimentation, getting the flavor balance right. And I can't remember how many different ones we tasted, but it was just an ongoing thing. But Bill would bring a slew in, would taste them. We have slightly different palates, but we'd sort of agree that one in the middle or one at either end was about right, but it needed more juniper or slightly less seaweed. It took a while, but it wasn't, it wasn't super tough. It was much easier once we realized you've got to reduce the seaweed quite a lot, because we initially wanted that sort of seaweed hit, so the saltiness would be there or the brininess would be there immediately. But whilst that tasted great on the first mouthful, by the bottom of the glass you'd had too much, and if you have a second glass, you were getting, like when you're swimming, your mouth gets all salty and
Okay. So, Peter, you're saying that it got saltier in the bottle, so it actually changed in the bottle.
Yeah.
Wow. Is it because of the oxidation, or how do you explain it?
Seaweed is such a strong, weird, special sort of item that it will resist anything. It's incredibly powerful.
Okay.
So when you just even put a little leaf in there, it will just sort of keep emanating its flavors, and so it will sort of control the bottle, and it looked really cool and pretty, but it tasted awful.
Okay. But I've also heard seaweed's kind of a superfood. They talk about that, so many nutrients, and it grows so quickly as well in the ocean.
Yeah, we should all be having seaweed salad all the time. We are just using a little bit in our gin, and I'd like to say that we do use quite a bit. So you nearly get some of the health benefits from the seaweed in the gin. But our chaga rum, which we haven't mentioned here, chaga is really, really good for you, and that's a sort of a mushroom it's mushroom-like.
Okay.
And it's very, very high in antioxidants, and people drink it as a tea for health reasons. And so we put it with rum.
It's always health reasons.
Yeah,
So, I drink it for health reasons.
Yeah. But we're not allowed to call the chaga rum a health drink. So
okay. And we should all call it a health drink. It's all fantastic. You should have, 2 ounces a day for the rest of your life.
Right. Well, Dolph, the reason the gin got saltier over time is that there was an actual piece of seaweed in the bottle, and it was continuing to extract flavor from the seaweed.
Really?
That's why it can, because they put a piece of seaweed in the bottle, so it was continued maceration. There's your word, maceration. But I want to ask you, Peter, how did you decide which type of seaweed to use? And kind of a joke question, is there terroir in seaweed?
Good question, Davin.
Well, I like that question.
Yeah, there's a very good name. I can't remember what it is now, but for the terroir under the water. And there certainly is. And all seaweed is very, very different under the water. I wish I could remember what it is. It's not sub-terroir, aqua terroir, perhaps.
Aqua terroir. But how did you decide which variety of seaweed to use?
We used those for the seaweed, partly because it's the first one we could get that was sort of food safe and we had a regular supply of. And was easy to get because we want to get dulse, but you just need to make sure that some of it is harvested properly and correctly, because sometimes in Newfoundland there are still sewage outlets into the ocean.
Okay. Yeah.
So you just want to make sure that you pick clean dulse.
Okay. Oh, okay. So okay.
And so we went to a few people, and we could get kelp. Dulse is sort of slightly prettier and easier to deal with than kelp, which is much bigger. But the kelp we used, so that's why we went with dulse. And the flavors, it's slightly more intense than the kelp, which is a sort of bigger, more gunkier seaweed. And there's lots of different strains. Oh, sorry.
That is a loud.
If that's my wife, I'm at the office.
I'm in the office. I'm not drinking anything. I'm having superfood.
Yeah, we're all on superfood. Sorry, and my phone's attached to the computer. So, yeah, I mean, yes, dulse was the first one we were looking for, and we went for that with the seaweed. But we went with the kelp for the gunpowder and rose rum because kelp is a natural source of sulfur. And so we're looking for natural flavors of gunpowder from the province rather than real gunpowder. And we did get real gunpowder for the gunpowder and rose rum and made a batch and got it about right. And then Bill then sourced the actual ingredients. So we had Newfoundland sea salt, which is to mimic the saltpeter. We got the kelp because that's a natural source of sulfur for the sulfur.
Okay.
And for the carbon, we got the charred birch. And so the flavors were slightly similar.
I'm wondering who actually had gunpowder on the side and the kelp and the seaweed, and trying to determine how the tastes kind of coincided. I'm wondering, one, where did you get the gunpowder to taste, and who had the guts to actually taste the gunpowder?
I did.
Good job, Peter.
You could buy all the ingredients online. They're technically food safe.
Okay.
Like sulfur, you can buy as a sort of a health food of some weird description. Saltpeter you can buy fairly easily, and the carbon. So we put it all in and made it as for the ingredients of gunpowder. But we're putting so little in; it's like almost parts of a millionth in the rum. I mean, I can't quite remember the numbers on that, but it was very, very small amounts. Yeah. But the flavors are quite strong. And so, you try the real one and then you get it to the level that you like. And so we did that with the real gunpowder. It was always a bit slightly too much kick at the beginning, surprise. And then
a little bit of a bang. I don't know why.
And then when Bill was mimicking it with the local ingredients, we dialed it down a little bit, but tried to keep the essence of the flavors there.
Okay.
And, it's fun experimentation. I didn't really know. I say, Bill, we like that one, or I like that one. Then he goes, yeah, but that one needs a bit more of this and that. And he goes back, and often plays, and then comes back and goes, okay, what about these ones? And then we try them and chat about them. And then there are others who, will get involved as well.
Peter, I've got to say, I would love to step in your shoes for probably 10 years, where you were traveling around the world, tasting everything, where you decide I'm going to become a distiller, and you taste and taste and taste. I would even taste gunpowder to try to do this. Blair, I see that the lights have come back on, and I want to ask you the same type of question. Peter is able to taste his gin, and I know, Blair, you're into other types of alcohols, and the gin being one of them that you like a lot. Have you ever been asked to kind of give your opinion on a developing gin?
No.
Nope.
Huh.
Maybe you should change your CV a little bit so that maybe you do one. I don't know. If I could get away with it, and I think I could if I had your background, I think I'd change my CV a bit, my resume, so that I could do that. How about you, Davin? Do you ever?
I have consulted on gins and whiskeys. Yeah, it's kind of part of my business. Yeah, I do consult on gins and whiskeys and other spirits as well. Not a lot, but I do some.
Now I know
I've also done a lot of consulting on private label whiskeys as well.
Okay, so Crown Royal, yes. Tell me about a gin.
Well, I think it's kind of covered by an NDA, so I can't really talk about it. But yes, I people are developing gins, and I'm tasting prototypes and suggesting a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and things like that. So yeah.
Okay, so the process would be they would send you samples, and let's say a sample of 6, and they'd say pick these. And Dolph,
I wouldn't say that there is a standard process.
Okay.
But people would send you 1 or more samples.
Yeah. And
you could comment, it needs this, it needs that, it's too soon, it's whatever. Same with whiskey. It's too young, it's, Okay. I know there's a whiskey on the market right now, which I really, really quite enjoy, which I told them was too young to release. Okay. So I was wrong.
That's fine. Well, no, it doesn't mean you're wrong. It means they could make money now, but it would have been better later, I'm assuming, right? And I just find that whole process really interesting. And not just that, how you personalize it for a different distillery, because maybe it tastes fantastic, but maybe you're after this type of thing. And if you want this, maybe you want to change it in this or this way. I think that would be a fantastic job. Teaching is a fantastic job, but I'm thinking of all these other kind of things. It's good. So, Peter,
can I ask a quick?
I'm envious. Dave, go ahead.
We got a quick question here for Nick. We can see the big tie with juniper and seaweed there on the island. Any ties with iceberg at all? Like, do you guys do anything? Any thoughts of chipping off a big chunk and trying it?
Yeah. No, I mean, there is iceberg vodka and gin here, and they do use real iceberg water, and that's great for them. And I think that's their thing, and we don't really want to jump onto their bandwagon with that, because that's wonderful
for them.
Yeah. And I probably shouldn't say any more because friendly.
That's good.
Dolph, when Blair and I were in Newfoundland in 2014, I went out on a boat, and we harvested some iceberg ice just as we're going along, just using fish nets to pull it out. No, you didn't have to do that. Little pieces break off and they're floating in the water. It's incredibly easy to harvest.
Did you get them? Did you get them home?
No. I tasted them and threw them back overboard.
Yeah.
Too small? Yeah.
It is. You can get it. It's the best ice to have in your drink.
Okay.
Oh.
It lasts a lot more slowly than any other ice.
Didn't know that.
If we were given some, we have been given some, and we'll serve it in drinks, but we wouldn't use it for our spirits. But it's amazing ice in your drink.
I need a scientist in the background. If we have a scientist, we have a couple doctorates that listen to us. I want someone's a scientist to tell me why. Is it more dense, or why would it become more dense? And if it's more dense,
it's older. It's aged brilliantly.
Okay.
It's 20,000 years old.
There you go.
An hour.
So now we're going to start seeing age statements on the ice, are we?
20,000-year-old
falling off anyway. So you don't want people going up. There might be companies from the States going up and grabbing the remaining ice shelves to sell it as high price ice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, just a quick reminder for those, because this was in the Whisky Book Club, that these two that we've tasted tonight, and I'll show you my two, are available in Alberta. At Dave, do you remember the name?
Everything Wine and More in Sherwood Park we know so far.
Okay.
I did a bigger list of names because
do you? Sorry, Peter, you have a bigger list, or there just is a bigger one out there?
Oh, there's a much bigger one out there, but I didn't think to look at it and write it down.
Yeah.
They're in Calgary as well.
Okay.
Kensington, probably.
And this is coming to the LCBO. If they have any brains in the LCBO.
I like the way you speak.
Good stuff. And I do want to ask one question. Right here, if we could take a look. So I'm wondering how long you made the hand sanitizer, and do you still make it, or what were you given like a 3-month period to do it type thing?
We can still make more.
Yep.
And we might make more, but at the moment we've got some stock, and it was incredibly busy for 3 months. It was absolute mayhem. Fantastic that we were able to sort of help in a useful way.
Yep. And you did.
Yeah, and we got it out to everybody. It's extraordinary, the shortage of it. And now we have made quite a lot. We've got some stock, and we're selling that in a nice, gentle, happy way. We have had 1 or 2 approaches to make a lot more, we're not sure. We really want to focus on just making our spirits. But of course, if there's a real need for it and we can be helpful, we would do that over making spirits. But
okay,
yeah, because you've got to have clean hands to have to enjoy your drink.
I agree completely. All right. Any other questions from the side, Dave, before I start wrapping things up? Or
no,
good?
we're looking pretty good there.
Nice, good.
It seems like your government is extremely easy to work with. Do you find a lot of out of province, out of territory, out of the country, small batch gins coming in, or are they bringing that in to compete with you?
Not that many. There are a few. The Botanist, which is a
big one,
fine gin.
Yeah.
They tried to come in just as we were launching, and they thought they would clean up the market. They were very upset.
Good.
We launched at the same time, and they didn't get any of the traction. But there's not. I've noticed they have just got the Dillon's gin in, but there's not a massive amount of sort of smaller craft gins in for sale in the NLC stores. And I would hope they'd have more, because I like going to taste them and try them for professional reasons only.
How's the Gunpowder and Rose rum doing in Newfoundland? That's an awesome rum.
Well, thank you. It's doing really well here. And, we're absolutely delighted with that. It's also doing very well in Quebec, and it's growing constantly in Alberta and also in Quebec. And I think it's growing. It seems to be just gently growing everywhere. And I think it's going to be in the US this fall.
Ooh. Oh, really?
And get the UK, but in just New York, but in small ways. We're not
still good
100,000 liters. But that said, a funny thing is we did have a supplier to the US military of all their divisions, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Army, and the Air Force, ring up and say, we would like to supply Gunpowder and Rose rum to the US military. Can you help? Yeah, in principle.
But not Space Force.
No, not Space Force. that's
Eventually it'll be Space Force too, Davin. That's the one right there. That's a multi-billion-dollar contract there for you, Peter.
Yeah. Jump on that. Actually, just do Space Force only. Well, actually, we shouldn't.
Crown Royal started in the States only going to the military.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the military was their first consumer in the States, and nobody else could get it. If you weren't in the military, you had to know somebody.
Well, we apparently, the way they sell this, it goes to all their the military stores, at all their bases.
Yeah.
APHIS. Amex for us, APHIS for them. Davin, when was that year-wise?
64, 63, 64.
Okay.
Wow.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right. And I do want to try the gunpowder in a drink somehow, just to see what that's kind of like. I know the smell of gunpowder after you've shot a gun, because I was in the Army when I was young.
I thought you were going to say your wife's lover.
No, we're in Canada, Davin. We don't do things like that. We're very sorry. Anyways, Peter, in that case, though, with the American Armed Forces, when that happens, who approaches you? It's hopefully not Donald Trump. Who would actually be talking?
There was an article in Bloomberg News or one of their magazines, and had seen about gunpowder having kelp in it. And he'd seen that, and he just called up and said, I'd like to do it. And he said, when you get to the States, let me know. So,
all right, done.
We will in due course. And we'll give them limited quantities until we can, ramp up. We don't want to give ourselves any shocks. We're trying to just move smoothly forward.
Jesus.
Bit by bit. Blair and Davin, for the Seaweed gin, do you get the brininess on the palate, or is it more the nose?
I get only a small amount of brininess, and it's on the palate.
Okay. Because on the nose, it's got a little bit of a kind of a whiskey like. Well, I know it's barley, but it's got.
I can smell barley spirit in this for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a second. Let me just pour some more because I got mine mixed with soda for the, or pardon me, mixed with tonic for this. So I'll pour some to just try plain.
And Peter, I don't usually do this with gin. Try it straight, but I call it gins in my life.
This is martini gin.
Yeah.
You want to make this cold and put it in a martini tomorrow, Dolph?
Big strong. I could do that. That'd be fun.
But it's very funny with the ice. You can see how the oils, then it gets a little bit cloudy.
I like that.
Sort of unleash, and you can taste it, but it's not there on the nose. We all wanted to have an immediate, more sort of briny, salty impact as soon as you have it. But we realized after a lot of experimentation, you've got to tone it down so you can have more than possibly one glass if you'd like that.
All right. Gentlemen, we've hit the hour mark. We'll do a last comment from you all. We'll do the same thing we did last time. Davin, Blair, Dave, and then we'll finish off with you, Peter. And then with me at the end. And yeah, it's been fantastic. It's been great. But Davin, you are up, kind sir.
Davin de Kergommeaux, at Davin DEK on Instagram and Twitter. I'm the co-author of this book, The Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries, and I'm finishing off my evening with a gin and tonic made with seaweed gin from the Newfoundland Distillery Company.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Likewise, co-author of The Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries. It's kind of like as soon as I did this,
Pop.
the power went out. So that is called flavor.
Excellent. Excellent. And Dave, you're up, buddy.
All right. Hey, I only got these 2 little samples, so they didn't last very long. But it was a pleasure to talk to Peter tonight. I had a couple customers. I told them I was going to be talking to a guy from Newfoundland, and they said, "Have you ever talked to anybody from Newfoundland before? Because you might not be able to understand them." I said, "Wow, this has been great, Peter. I understood everything you said."
Perfect. Dave, put those little bottles up because you're complaining about them a lot, but I like the looks of that. See? And
they look
on the side too.
What?
No, the other way. The emblem. There. Those are good looking bottles. I'm glad I gave them to you.
Yeah, I'm lucky to be on here. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, you.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Davin and Blair, for including us and thinking of us in this, and Dolph for including us and involving us in tonight, and Dave for the chats. And yes, have a wonderful evening, everybody.
And cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. It's a great night. And I say this every week, but it is every week. This has been a memorable episode for us, one that I and hopefully everyone else here thoroughly enjoyed. So I don't have anything to offer up. I've got a little bit in here, just the teeniest bit. So here's the good company. Here's the good whiskey and cocktails, which are all done. And here's the good books, and here's the good conversation. And here's to seeing you all next week. And this is a bit different. Saturday, September 26th for our Whisky Book Club Canadian Whisky Journey retrospective. That's right. We will meet one last time with Blair, Davin, and the rest of our usual Whisky Book Club crew to talk about the best of our last 3 months of traveling virtually and drinking actually. It should be a night to remember, and hope we could see you all at that time. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen on the side. Thank you very much, gentlemen on my panel on this side. And let's just finish it all with cheers. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic night, one and all.